What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Eric Collins Screaming. As always, I am your host, Zach Cronin, and today we are going to be doing a film session on Brandon Miller, who over the last 2 weeks or so has been brilliant. Not by just rookie standards, but by NBA player standards. You could argue that the second overall pick has been the second best rookie in the NBA behind Victor Wembanyama. Him and Chet Holmgren have been spectacular over these last 10 games or so, but Brandon Miller has just now began consistently to look like the player that had shades of Paul George at Alabama. The decision to draft Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson was, I don't want to really say controversial. It was one that could have went either way. The Hornets already have their foundational backcourt piece in LaMelo Ball, and having size and length and scoring on the perimeter in the modern NBA is a necessity. Over these last 10, 11 games, Brandon Miller projects to be a future 50, 40, 90 guy. He has been spectacular when it comes to scoring with the ball, when it comes to scoring without the ball, moving around screens, initiating the offense. His numbers over these last 11 games include 23.6 points on 49% shooting, and that includes about 41% from three. He's also seeing just a shade under 18 attempts from the field overall and 8 threes per night. Most recently, he had 33 points against the Lakers, 35 against Indiana, 29 against the New York Knicks. There really isn't much more I could say about this young man other than just gush about how outstanding he's been. But for today, I don't want to look at the game against the Lakers. I don't want to look at the game against the Pacers. Not that I don't think that those aren't fantastic games, but to me, his best game during this stretch came against Oklahoma City. Against the Thunder, he had 28 points on 11 of 19 shooting. There's a ton of variety in his game, a lot of shot variety, a lot of different types of angles in the mid range, on the perimeter, getting to the paint. He doesn't really get to the line that frequently. He's only averaging 3.4 attempts per night, which is largely inflated by the 12 attempts he got versus the Indiana Pacers. But I'm not expecting a rookie to get a whistle, a beneficial whistle, the majority of the time, especially when his 3 pointers are on the higher side. Close to 50% of his shots are coming from the perimeter, but he's still looking to attack. He's figuring out how to get to his spots. There is really not much more that I could say about Brandon Miller. I'm going to let his game do the talking for him, and we're going to go ahead. I'm going to walk you through this performance. Brandon Miller, guarded by Josh Giddey, is a matchup that I would exploit every time down the court if I could. Josh Giddey's not a great defender. He is There's really nothing he can do against the guy who is shooting this red hot. And also, Brandon Miller is shot ready, gets into his motion cleanly. Like, that's an easy shot for a lot of guys in the NBA. Not really much more I could say about that. I do want to add before we get too deep into this video, I'm not going to be too critical of Brandon Miller in this video because there really isn't much that I can critique about his game. He's a highly intelligent shot finder. He gets good shots off a majority of the time. Despite being such a young player, I mean, he is a little older than someone like Scoot Henderson, but his game is far along for a 21-year-old. His fundamentals are damn near perfect. There are some hiccups every now and then. There are some efficiency of movement, some biomechanical stuff that I want to see get cleaned up down the line. But again, he's only 21, and I'm not trying to rag on Scoot by any means. I actually did a breakdown of him as well that never got released. But when you have players who are 19, 20, 21 years old, they're not going to be perfect right out of the gate. Not everybody is going to be LeBron coming out of high school. But you'll notice this. You'll notice how Brandon Miller is always shot ready. He's always square. His hands are always ready to receive the pass. The only thing that I could potentially be critical of, and it's not even a critique, I think that in a couple of years, we're going to see his release point move up a little bit. I did a comparison between him and Paul George. And I'm talking about current day Paul George. When you watch Paul George's release on his jump shot, it is above his head. Right now with Brandon Miller, it's like about forehead, level, I would expect to see Charlotte work on that over the next 2, 3, 4 years, because once he tweaks that release point, any chance of the shot getting blocked, as little as it already is, it's going to be damn near impossible because he's such a crafty ball handler. He's such a smooth player as well. That's where a lot of the Paul George comparisons come from. But I'm yapping at this point. Let's get on with the fucking video. Text the closeout here. His man overplays the three, is leaning to his right side, the defender's right side. So Brandon Miller just goes the opposite way. It is a two dribble, 1-2, no contest. Like, these are easy shots that he's going to be able to get pretty much at will. And, this is also probably the plan for Oklahoma City, is to run Brandon Miller off the 3-point line. So I'm not going to fault this closeout. You got him into a 15-footer. You'll live with those. Also, you're up by fucking 25 or whatever it is. So you're just trying to limit threes at that point. I like this play a lot. I like how he absorbs the initial contact. So gets beat to the spot, knocks his man down, keeps his dribble alive, and is able to settle into a warm-up three, basically. So he obviously wants to get to his right because he's a right-hand dominant player. The defender beats him there. Boom. Some young players might pick up their dribble after that. I mean, granted, it would still be an open jumper, but being able to keep that dribble alive and reestablish your rhythm is huge, especially for a guy who, again, is shooting 41% from three over his last 11 games. So you have Brandon Miller setting the slip. Giddey overplays. Miller finds the opening in the corner. This is a good shot. It just doesn't fall, but gets his rebound. Not really great defensive effort by OKC here. And he finishes. Like, very, very easy stuff. This is taking the open spot. He slides into the corner to make it an easy pass for Miles Bridges. He's beginning to set himself as he receives the pass. And he gets the pass. Once he receives this ball, he's ready to shoot. From everything I've seen over these last 11 games, there's nothing to me that signals inefficiency from Brandon Miller. OKC running in transition. It is a 4-on-2. Holy moly. Brandon Miller drives, dishes, reestablishes himself on the wing, knowing where to move after making the pass. Just he's playing basketball. I mentioned this in the Henderson video that never got released, but I think what changed for Scoot Henderson now as opposed to earlier in the season is that he's playing basketball. He's not overthinking too much. So if you're running a 4-on-2, you're seeing what your defender does. If your defender does not come up to stop the ball, keep pushing. That's what Brandon Miller does. He gets into the paint, finds his man in the corner. That's Bryce McGowan, and then just resets. The defense is scrambling. No one is picking you up. The way that Charlotte utilizes Brandon Miller is great for his development. I think it's not making him reliant on being an isolation player. He can play without the ball, which is what he's done throughout the course of this game so far. There aren't prolonged sets where he is facilitating. He's able to use his agility and his athleticism to find his own shots without having to force anything, without having to dribble. Obviously, the Hornets are down by damn near 30 at this point, 32 actually, but they're still hunting for shots. He's still hunting for shots. He's trying to get these reps in. So he's going to be screened, and also he's going to be set a screen, and then he's going to end this possession being screened. So Miles Bridges gets this screen from Brandon Miller on Lou Dort. There's a good switch by OKC, but then you have this third screen coming in, which frees Miller for this uncontested three. This is shooting practice, and his footwork, his mechanics, his balance, everything is so, I mean, there is like this is perfect. The swing around, it's on balance, it's on target. Lou Dort is on his left side, so there's really no way that he can block this shot without fouling, and the elevation that he gets as well. I want to see if I can actually pull his release point up. This is Brandon Miller's release point, right? At forehead level, I think that at some point we see we see it up here above his forehead, like this elevation. And again, Paul George is shooting this over Josh Giddey, who is guarding Brandon Miller in the breakdown that we're watching. You're not going to be able to contest that shot. It's actually going to be impossible. Brandon Miller bringing the ball up, working in the pick and roll. This is kind of a goofy play where he gets rewarded with an and one. The Thunder are not really guarding this as intensely as you would maybe want. Good utilization of the step back here. However, Holmgren is playing off. Giddey is on his hip. If he steps back, he's got a not an uncontested floater, but it's going to put Dort in a precarious position, which it does. He reaches. If Dort isn't there, if Dort doesn't create that contact, this contact right here, this is another makeable shot. He's just going to pivot 1-2, and it's already going to be a relatively easy shot because the contact is coming behind him. Excellent read on this pick and roll here. Watch the pivot and then the sell with the jab step to get the defender to lean just a little bit. Not the jab step, I'm sorry, but the shoulder shimmy. Good screen. Holmgren playing drop. Guy going over. Miller's defender going over. This is a three that he's going to take probably 7 times out of 10, and this is a three that he's going to make probably 4 times out of 10. It's easy. Holmgren is a long dude. He's a big long dude. This is not a good enough contest. If you're really trying to throw off Brandon Miller's rhythm, you got to be up. You got to attack this. You got to be up with your arms up, your feet. You got to be doing chop steps. Especially, I know that you guys are up big right now. You don't want this team to start hitting threes, because next thing you know, you hit a bunch of threes and it could be a 15-point game. I mean, this three cuts the lead to 24 with a quarter and a half left. That is a deficit that a team can overcome once they hit a couple shots. Granted, it didn't work because the Hornets lost this game by 20, but still, it's just the type of mindset that you want your team to have. I like this, getting into the paint, trying to get an easy shot. Obviously, things have not worked out well for the Hornets because they've been outscored like 20-14 since that last shot. Kenrich Williams in one-on-one coverage. Miller goes to the middle, is beat to the spot by Kenrich Williams, maintains his dribble, spins back to his strong side shoulder, gives a little shove. I don't expect to see Brandon Miller playing in the paint a lot. He just doesn't have the body type for it. I don't think, if anything, we'll see him play it like the elbow extended or the low post, like out here, the low post extended as well. I don't, foresee him being a bruiser in the paint, but you don't need that when you can counter a move. Like, this guy has moves in his bag. The biggest thing for any shot creator is being able to counter what the defense throws at you, like he just did. He gets beat to the middle, absorbs the contact, and he's still gaining ground in this. At no point is Kenrich Williams able to stop him entirely. Brandon Miller just keeps moving forward. I love these kinds of shots. I don't know why. I'm a huge fan of the pick and roll into the 15-foot jump shot. For whatever reason, I think that is just a great shot for any scorer to have in their arsenal, because you truly become unguardable at that point. The defender does not know what to do with you if you can pull up in transition, if you can beat them off the dribble, and also if you can get good elevation and a good release off of 15 feet. There's really nothing more for the defense to do. Good screen. Charlotte's been setting great screens on every Miller attempt that he's made off of a screen. I want to give a shout out to Nick Richards, who is number 4, who just good screen, man. Good screen. Put your body on the defender. Also, shout out to Brandon Miller for utilizing these screens properly. That's a huge thing. Your big can set a good screen, but if you don't know how to run your defender into him, he's just like he's literally just standing there. Exceptional use of Nick Richards' body here. And then again, OKC is continuing to play drop coverage. So Miller is going to just two dribble pull up, one dribble pull up, pardon me, easy shot. One, two. And he's always on balance. He's playing at his own pace. He's playing his own game. Even though his team is down by 31 points, he knows that the Thunder cannot stop him because the Thunder have not been able to stop him at all throughout this game. Another good screen. Better contest, good fight over the screen as well, but this is good shot making. One thing I notice about Brandon Miller on these screens is he's a solid athlete. Is not ridiculously explosive by any means, but being athletic is not about how fast you can run or how high you can jump. Yes, there are components of that involved in being an athlete, but at least in basketball, basketball specific athleticism is about how quickly you can change direction, how dynamic you are with whatever your athleticism is. This is why Luka is such a fantastic player. This is why Jokic is such a fantastic player. Like those guys are on the same level as a guy like Giannis, and it's two entirely different types of athleticism. Brandon Miller is neither one of those groups, but watch the little trots to the corner, plants, boom. That's how you create space. You don't create space by going 100 miles an hour all the time. I mean, sometimes you can, definitely, if you have speed like De'Aaron Fox or prime John Wall, but a jog into a sprint can throw the defender off tremendously. I watched a handful of Brandon Miller's most recent performances, and he is such a joy to watch. The Paul George comparisons, they're hitting right now. I do see a lot of young Paul George in Brandon Miller, and you look at the type of player that Paul George has become, there is a huge potential for Charlotte to have two stars. Man, I think LaMelo Ball in his prime and Brandon Miller in his prime, just off of what I've seen over these last couple of weeks, obviously there is a lot that plays into that, but the trajectory for Brandon Miller is on a different level right now. And you combine what he's doing now with the spontaneity of a LaMelo Ball ran offense. There are going to be some really unique, some really fascinating sets. There are going to be some really ingenious plays being ran between these two that I think is something that NBA fans should be on the lookout for. It's going to be tremendous. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video. I thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, everything that I am associated with is down in the description box below. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on this video. Drop a comment as well. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you do any of those three things, you will become my new favorite person. If there is any player, anything that you want me to break down, leave those suggestions in the comments as well. With all that, I will catch y'all in the next one.